All right, Bolivia. Very, very excited to be here. Today I'm in the city center of La Paz. It's the Andes capital, the biggest city in this region. It sits high on the altiplano, the high plains of Bolivia. It's cold at night, it's hot during the day, and it has a lot going on. So in today's What's Going On, we're gonna look at all the things that are going on here in Bolivia. It's such a deeply interesting country, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's explore La Paz. Let's do it. On a first impression scale of Bolivia, I would say that this country is surprising for a lot of reasons. It was the country that I was most looking forward to coming to, besides Peru in South America, because here they have such a deep indigenous culture that's still alive and well, mixed in with the Spanish stuff, as a lot of the other countries are very, very Spanish or very, very Latin. This country is just something else. I've been here for about a week now, and there really is a lot going on. So first we're gonna start talking here in the Central Plaza of La Paz. The first thing you'll notice is this beautiful like 1500s, 1600s Spanish style church, and then a very kind of mix mash between like modern and kind of like 80s, 90s style things. This country is surprising because number one thing to know about Bolivia is it's the poorest country in South America. There's a lot of poverty here, there's a lot of difficulties for a lot of people, but while that's the case, it doesn't mean that they don't have beautiful buildings, they don't have beautiful things going on in their cities, new things, hip cafes, all of this good stuff. So La Paz, there seems to be a lot going on here, and a lot of new things mixed with old things, which is fantastic. I think this central square really represents La Paz pretty well. You have the church, you have pretty traditional looking women. You have a lot of people, this seems to be like a thing here. You have a lot of people that come to sit and to watch people perform down here. So they all just sit here, perform. You have street food vendors, you have a COVID-19 thing, and then you have some other really beautiful old buildings, all in the same place. I think this guy over here is trying to do stand-up comedy to this large crowd, but he's absolutely bombing. I haven't heard one laugh, and I feel very bad for him because he seems to be trying very hard. That is what it is. So I think I'm gonna get my shoes shined. Let's see how that goes. Buenos días. ¿Cuánto cuesta para limpiar mis zapatos? 10 pesitos. Ok, perfecto. Gracias. Gracias. So I figured this would be a great time to tell you guys a little bit about Bolivian society. As my shoes are quite dusty from walking around the altiplano, as I went to this amazing place called Salar de Uyuni. It's this salt plain it's the biggest salt field in the world. It's called like the heaven of the earth. You know, it's almost 4,000 meters above sea level, and I mean, you see things that it's like out of a story. It's like out of a storybook. I mean, you wouldn't believe what you're seeing. So. Yeah, amazing. But what should you know about Bolivia? So Bolivia is, first and foremost, very indigenous. Some people say there's about 70% indigenous population as high, some says 20%, with a lot of people being mestizo, mixed between indigenous and Spanish. I would say just from what I've seen, especially in the Altiplano, people are very indigenous. There's been very few straight up European looking people, and very few people who even look mixed with European. So they have this very strong culture, indigenous roots. You know, you can see like this little lady right here. She's like a good example. They still wear the very traditional clothes. The hat that she's wearing on the top of her head is kind of denoting that she's married in a certain way, and a lot of women still dress like this. Like, it's a very, very traditional country. All right, got my shoes cleaned. Look at these shoes. Put some white paint on there. Love that. Only for about $1.25. So let's learn a little bit about Bolivian history, because this country has quite an interesting story. Comparative to a lot of other countries in South America where they had small indigenous tribes and they were then just taken over by the Spanish quite easily, here was a different story. The Spanish came in the mid 1500s, but before that, there were various very strong tribes and even empires here in Bolivia. The one being the most important would be the Incan Empire. The Incans left a large impression, also colonizing this area, just like the Spanish did later, in which a lot of the tribes before the Incans came spoke different languages, had different gods, all of that good stuff. The Incans were here for just about 100, 150 years before the Spanish came, changing a lot of the Bolivian society to reflect more of that in Peru. Although when you go to the south of Peru, more towards Paraguay, and to the Amazonian region, more towards Brazil, those tribes were never conquered by the Inca, so they have a very different feeling. The Spanish sort of bisected this country, coming north from Asuncion in Paraguay, coming south from Cusco, which they had already taken over, and they took over Bolivia. Bolivia wouldn't regain its independence as its own nation until the early 1800s, having already been very Spanishified in that time period. The liberator of Bolivia, many say, is Simón Bolívar, who was a Venezuelan kind of aristocrat who became a super freedom fighter for South American liberation. He was instrumental in the liberations of Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Bolivia is literally named after Simón Bolívar. So they wanted to pay homage to him. There was actually a debate between different countries. They wanted to be called Bolivia, but this Bolivia won the game first. You can probably hear when I'm talking that I'm a bit out of breath. This is not because I'm out of shape, although maybe I'm a little out of shape, but it's because this city, the city of La Paz, is the highest capital city in the entire world. It's something like 3,700 meters down here in the city center, which is something like 10,000 feet, almost 11,000 feet. It's almost two and a half Denvers, is the best way I can put it. The newer part of the city, the new metropolitan area, which is just up this way, called El Alto, which literally means the high, is 4,100 meters, easily the highest densely populated area in the entire planet. I'm not gonna go too deeply into Bolivian history, but the most important part that you should know is that Bolivia has had an identity struggle its entire modern existence. It's been fighting for land, it's been fighting for its rights, and the indigenous population didn't have access to a lot of services and to a lot of resources for a long time, and it's still a big problem. In 2005, Bolivia elected their first indigenous president since basically 1809. It's almost 200 years without an indigenous president, but they got him. His name was Evo Morales, and he was very celebrated but also very controversial in the region, as he was very much a leftist in many ways, and he also fought particularly hard for the coca farmers of Bolivia. Oh my god, I'm out of breath. I've never been this out of breath for making a video. So he fought very hard for the coca farmers, the plant that cocaine comes from. In Bolivia, it's a very traditional medicine. It's something they use for altitude sickness. It's something you can buy very easily. But as the United States was inserting its foreign policy in the region, they're pushing really hard for the eradication of the coca plants and the stopping of all legal coca farming. But seeing that that's like an indigenous stronghold, basically like job for people here, many people are coca farmers. Many people, you know, have no problem with it, and it's deeply part of the culture. They fought against it, and Evo Morales really pushed against the United States, and now this is the only country in South America, maybe in the entirety of the Americas, that an American actually needs a visa to go to. So if you want to come here, it's $160, and you can come visit Evo Morales and try some coca leaves. Speaking of the indigenous native heritage of Bolivia, here is something called the Mercado de Brujas, or the Witches Market. And while there's a strong indigenous presence, there's also this strong kind of connection with mysticism and the religions that predate Christianity, even though the people here are incredibly Catholic. In this market, you can find esoteric power. So this is Casa de Esoterica Siete Poderes. So the house of the 7 esoteric powers. So in these stores, they have basically like all the things that you would need to be I don't know, sufficient in case you need to do some sort of blessing or you need to do some sort of I don't know, thing for your family. I'll give you a good example. So up here are basically stillborn fetuses of llamas. So what I understand is that you can use these for various ceremonies. So if your family is going on a travel and you want to protect them, or if you're starting a new business or something, you take these, you take some wood, some other spices and incense, you put them onto some madera, some wood, and you create a fire, and you burn them in the name of the ancestors. Just like up here, these are stillborn, fully, like full-term llamas. What I understand is that they basically put these in the foundations of new buildings to make sure the buildings will be safe, and that the building will be built correctly, and that it'll be a place where your family will have a lot of success. So, stillborn llamas, llama fetuses, they have all of these different, very strange things, you know, like incantations, things for your stomach, things that for women, and these are all kinds of powders. And the only place I can really say that I've seen that has stuff similar to this is actually India, and they also have this in case you need help in the bedroom. So what is Bolivia now? Like, what is this country? Well, the answer is that it's opening up. There's still this very large traditional sort of sense. So here, I mean, this is a very touristy street, but they've really leaned in aggressively to the fact that, you know, they have llamas and they have knitted shirts, and this is actually the Quechua flag, which you see all over the place. And they've really kind of changed what they've been doing over the past, you know, 10 or 20 years. And now this is a place people really want to travel to because it's not only beautiful, they have the Amazon, they have the salt flats, they have the Andes Mountains, they have Santa Cruz de la Sierra, which is the biggest city. It's actually in the Amazon. They have Catholic culture, they have indigenous culture, they have so much to share. But it's also a place that's trying to figure out who they will be in the future, you know, as more tourists come, as more Western influences come. Like, I kind of feel like this is going to be a place that's very similar to Thailand, where it has a very strong local culture, but it will also become very accommodating to millions of tourists should they want to come down here. So this area here, obviously, is all very nice and touristy. They're actually having their La Paz anniversary, so you'll see a lot of different you know, paintings and stuff. They like to make the place look nice. This is one of the most touristy streets that you'll probably see in La Paz. So let's go someplace a little bit more local. Here's a nice example of like things that you often see here in Bolivia. This here, for example, is the Inti sun god from the Incans. And you see a lot of these very traditional kind of motifs. In an otherwise very Catholic society, you'll see people really go to mass here. But they've also adapted some of the things that they still use from their Incan religions and their native religions as well. Even just a few blocks away from the tourist area, you go someplace that's very, very local feeling. They really like to have these open markets with fruit, traditional ladies. They sell all kinds of different stuff everywhere. Good street food in this country. Good, just good. So, is Bolivia safe? Ironically, for the most poor country in the region, I actually think Bolivia is the safest country that I've been to in South America, hands down. It's the only city that you can really walk in at night and feel okay. There's part of La Paz up there. I'm not sure you guys can see, it starts to slope into a hill called El Alto again. At night, I probably wouldn't wander around there, but if you're just in the city center. No estás en mi video. My God, some lady wanted to hit me with a banana. God, that was weird. Okay, so yeah, it's really safe, unless some little lady wants to hit you with a banana. I think that would be the second serious problem. The second part would be, is it cheap? I think Bolivia is very, very, very cheap if you want to come here. Most lunches, if you want to have a traditional lunch, normally they give you like a soup, some sort of second dish, and a dessert sometimes, or a fresh juice. That can be something like, I don't know, 13 bolivars, which is like almost $2. If you want to buy fresh stuff like down here, you know, from a lady, I'm sure you can get a really nice price. The hotels in this country and the hostels are more expensive than you would find in Asia, but still really, really cheap. Good God. The altitude in this country is crazy. Technically, at this height, you get 40% less air than you would at sea level. And so it takes a while for your lungs to adjust. So, as a recommendation, do not drink caffeine. Sometimes they say it's bad. It's because it's dehydrating. You know, if you're dehydrated, your body processes oxygen worse. And secondarily, definitely do not drink alcohol. There's a lot of tourists that come here, they drink alcohol, and they have a really bad time because they can get really sick. Your body doesn't process the oxygen well, and you end up in the hospital in an oxygen bed for quite a bit of time. The cool part about Bolivia is even though 30-40% of it is a mountainous country, and a lot of people only go to the mountainous regions, they actually do have the connection with the Amazon, so they have a lot of fruit and vegetables that you've probably never seen before, with a lot of different things that you can experience. This is really the most Asian place I've been outside of Asia, where like the people are doing something totally different, the culture is doing something totally different, the vibe is different, even though here it's kind of nice because they speak Spanish, so if you have questions you can ask them, versus Thailand takes a lot of effort and a lot of specific learning knowledge if you want to learn Thai. Because most Bolivians are quite poor and don't have a car, here in the more densely populated places they use these things called colectivos or rapiditas, and they will go in a certain direction and just pick up people, drop people off, and you see them all over the place. Also, the funny part is there's no taxis that are specific, so that's a taxi, this is a taxi, and it really just depends on like what cars they have available. So you can tell they're still definitely behind in the as far as the transportation infrastructure. You know, they have the pretty crazy systems for electricity, which I find particularly interesting. But I think things are going pretty fast. You know, you see mobile phone stores, you see a lot of interesting things. And I think we're just gonna walk through a flea market now. So let's check this out. I'm not actually sure exactly what this is, but they have a lot of these mercado negro or black markets here where people sell, you know, stolen stuff that's from companies that are not super legit and all this other thing. So they also have the biggest market in the entirety of South America on Alto, just up here, and it's 5 kilometers of straight market, which is crazy. So this is Mercado Uruguay, named after one of the smallest countries in South America. Oh. Let's see what they've got in here. I mean, it really transports me back to the markets in Vietnam, the markets in Thailand and Cambodia. The amount of different things, food, and just experiences that you can have here. It's so local. Look at that. Wow. Funny enough, this is kind of a fish market. It seems like you can get chicken, little anchovies, tripe, and then the thing that's really famous here is actually trout, because they have lots of rivers that cut through this place. Not necessarily up here in the Andes Mountains, but they just have, you know, just a lot going on. It's really hard to explain, guys. Like, I would just say this is easily my favorite country that I've traveled to. If you're interested in cultural travel, easily the most interesting one in South America so far. I was expecting the southern part of Peru to be like this, but I think the entirety of Bolivia is just so specific, and it's really comfortable. People are friendly, can't complain. These are easily my favorite transportation systems here. Really cool old buses, Fords. I don't even know where they're from. They're looking from the 70s. They just keep fixing them and fixing them and fixing them. So let me present you to one of the coolest cities I've ever seen, La Paz, Bolivia. You have an amazing mountain up here, and the whole city sits in this valley. I'm not sure you guys can see it, but right here, there's actually something called the teleferico. And so basically, the public transportation in the city is really impossible because the city is all built on a hill. And so for here, they decided to use a chairlift to get people from where they need to go instead of building a subway, which would be impossible, or using integrated bus system. As you can see down here, basically all of the roads are these sort of curved kind of switchback roads that go through the city. So they've done really something Very ingenious, very, very interesting. So the last thing we're gonna do is try a local juice.
¿Qué es lo que grabas? ¿Qué es lo que filmas?
Es para mi canal de YouTube.
Cuando vino chiquito, bebito.
Ah, okay, okay.
Ahora está así.
¿Cómo se llama?
Choco.
Choco. Gato Montes. Okay. ¿Y qué grande es?
Ahorita tiene 8 meses, está de este tamaño.
Okay. So this is the fruit stand. This is the lovely girl. And I tried this fruit, tumbo. Es una fruta de Amazon, ¿sí? Una fruta de Amazon. ¿Sí?
Eso es bueno.
Okay, perfecto. And you can get your fruit drink right here. You can have it mixed with milk or with water for just about $1 US. I have no idea how to describe the flavor to you, so I'm just not going to. As a wrap up for this video, I would say that everybody needs to come to poor countries and interact with people that don't have the ability and don't have the money, don't have the time or the luxury to travel, because those people really, they gain a lot when you talk to them. Because, for example, that lady, you know, sitting at the little cafe, we were chatting, and you know, she went to Argentina for a couple days to visit family. But other than that, she's never left the region. She's never basically left La Paz. She's not been to other cities in Bolivia. I've traveled more Bolivia than she has. So, but she's very curious to hear about my experiences. I'm curious to hear about how she likes life here and what life is like for her. And it's weird because you also get these other weird things that are like odd connections, like just a big Chris Evans, like I think that's the Iron Man guy, just like postered on the side here. And it's like, I don't know, it's such a weird mix when you come to countries like this. Everyone's got to do it. So if you haven't done it yet, do it. So from the land of Quechua, Aymara, Guarani, amazing food, amazing people, amazing colors, and vibrant culture. I'd say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. But for me, in La Paz, we say, adios amigos.